With little or no editing, it's a special edition of Defense Up if you haven't figured it out. We are doing some cosplay on stream today. I'm the Wasp, and I'm joined by my wife, Way Too Raw for You, dressed as Ant-Man. We're going over Mrs.Salty's war defense today. She's 9 million TCP, and rocking, I believe, Plat 2 is what she said. I can't remember. Somebody will let me know if I have the wrong one there. Okay, we grade on 5 different criteria. It's who you're using, their placement, their power levels, their ISOs, and what kind of mood we're in. We're having a little fun on stream. If you guys want to be a part of stream, Monday, Wednesday, Friday is the MSF streams. You can join us those mornings. You can join me any morning during the week if you want to, and all sorts of shenanigans. Sometimes I have Way Too Raw come and join us. Also, I'll put Way Too Raw's stream links down below if you want to go check her out when she's away from me, because I know how a lot of you just come to my stream to see her. So, team number 1 is the Wakandans. We're going to be talking a lot about moving a lot of different teams from defense to offense, as she isn't rocking a huge roster at 9 million TCP. So we want to make sure that she has all the things she needs to attack with. When you first start out, when you're a smaller player or newer to Marvel Strike Force, you always want to be pushing towards full clear at the detriment of your helicarrier, because most of the time you just don't have enough teams for 10 defenses and 12 offensive attacks. And you do want to have 12 offensive attack teams as soon as possible. Once you have your first 12, then you start filling in your defenses. And Mrs.Salty does not have 12 offensive teams. So we're going to be moving the Wakandans to offense. However, we want to do a placement change with Black Panther and Okoye. We definitely need to make Okoye a skirmisher and make Black Panther and M'Baku a striker. M'Baku can function as a fortifier, but he does some pretty good damage after his rework, and you're going to be getting a little bit more DPS out of this team if you make him a striker to get those striker skirmisher combos off of Okoye. Likewise with Black Panther, remember, when Black Panther goes and Okoye goes in for the assist and gets the kill, it counts towards Black Panther's turn meter, and he gets that turn meter boosting him back up to go again and again. So you definitely want to make sure he's a striker and she's a skirmisher for those combos. All in all, this isn't a great team. If you are investing in this team, you want to go for the War Dogs, not the Wakandans, as that's where the long-term value is going to be at. But this is the biggest that she's got. We were talking about whether or not she should invest in this team more, and it's probably looking like she's going to go for her Horseman teams first, then her Raid teams, and then probably by the time she gets to this War Attack team, it's going to be too late for it. So this is probably about as big as it's going to get, unless the team warrants some other attention. If it gets, a tag that puts it in a raid or puts it in some sort of content in the future, I think this is probably going to be about as big as it gets. So placement change, ISO changes. Otherwise, it's pretty good. We're moving it to offense. I'm giving this one a C. It's not in great shape right now. Let's go to team number 2 is the Gambit team. Right off the bat, we're going to take this team off of defense, fill it with whatever junk you have on your roster. This goes to offense for sure. It is a smash all button in war. That's where they excel, and you're going to be using them for offense there. Red Hulk needs some love. We want to get some gear on him as soon as possible. I like Brawn better as a striker or a healer. I like Green Hulk as a healer or striker. They work great. She-Hulk as a skirmisher or healer works well. Abomination, however, needs to be a raider. He should not be a striker. He needs to be a raider. You can run Red Hulk as a raider or a striker. Those are all the different choices that you have, but Abomination needs to change. And I'd like a placement change with She-Hulk and Red Hulk so that Red Hulk is in between the two people taunting and has a better chance of getting some splash damage, giving him those charges, which really makes this team scream through any defense you want to throw it into. All right. So we definitely need at least one ISO change, and we need a place change on this one. I'm going to go with a B for the team. Moving on, team number 3. Again, another team that we're going to go to offense with. However, Way Too Raw uses this team, or used this team as a hybrid, taking just Rogue and Gambit. Raw, what did you use this team for?
Specifically, but Rogue and Gambit can punch up a lot on a lot of things. She won't be taking out anything like crazy OP, but she could be using them as a hybrid on an offense team to help clear 90% of what she's going to come across in her level.
You can combine them with such things as some of the Axemen leftovers, or just whatever like raid you're using, or maybe just some plug and play characters, because Rogue's a pretty good powerhouse, and with that early taunt can keep other people alive to do their thing and keep them from being ability blocked or whatever. And then Gambit just putting out lots of damage on turns and stuff. So that's pretty good. So if you wanted to focus your build, you could prioritize Rogue and Gambit using them as a hybrid on offense, and then later come back around to the other members of the team. It's a powerful team, works really well. I don't think it's as good as Gamma, but it's still a really good team in War. Of course, used a lot in Crucible with their Crucible bonuses. We do want a placement change with this team. I think we need to go Rogue on the outside, then probably Gambit, then maybe Fire Chicken, and then you could go Phantom X and Dazzler, however you want to do that. There's some other, people argue placement on this team all the time. I just don't want Rogue in the middle for sure. That's no good for me at all. And then Rogue as a fortifier is a travesty. She definitely needs to be a skirmisher. Maybe a striker would work well. Also, you can run Dazzler as a Raider or Skirmisher. A lot of people are telling me that Skirmisher's great for her, especially at lower stars, lower build. That way she gets that focus boost. The rest of the ISOs on this team are okay. I like Gambit as a Raider better than a Striker myself for lots of that crit damage. But the biggest thing here is that we need to change Rogue's ISO. That Fortifier is terrible. We need to move her to the outside. And then just start investing in this team. It's a Horseman team. Obviously, it requires some priority build. So lots of things that need to be done on this team. It's in pretty poor shape. I'm going to give it a C- as is. Once you get pieces or the whole thing built up, switch it to offense and go smash some things with it. Team number 4, Darkhold. Right off the bat, we have terrible placement on this. Agatha calls an assist from one random adjacent Darkhold member. So you put Agatha on the outside and then put MLF next to her because MLF's basic is the best of the team. That's who should be next to Agatha. Then you're going to want Wong in the other corner next to Scarlet Witch and have Doctor Strange in the middle. Scarlet Witch taking the splash damage off of Wong when he gets hit. She's the least valuable member. That's why you keep Strange away from Wong. Let's see. Skirmisher, Striker, Raider. I can live with those ISOs. That works for me, but we definitely want that placement change. And again, this is another powerful team. So for those of you who are newer to War, this goes on offense and you replace it with junk on your defense. I'm going to go A- on this, the placement tweak, and move it to offense. Team number 5 over here, we have a bunch of leftover X-Men junk. There's some synergies that are going on here. There's the possibility that we should invest in different places. You could switch them all to Strikers and Skirmishers and get quadruple taps with Storm being in here. Storm gets extra charges with Beast. There's some stuff going on with Wolverine if you were to replace Phoenix into this team or something like that. Lots of different things that you could do with this. However, at Mrs.Salty's level, it shouldn't happen. We shouldn't bother wasting any more ions on this team. We don't need to bother changing placement or anything because nothing's going to help this team stay alive. It's going to get rolled. It's got a wonky investment in it with the different power levels going on in here. Not too bad, I guess. Jubilee's not too far outpacing the rest of the team. The problem is it's not powerful enough to use on offense. We don't have enough pieces to make a really good defense, and there's a lot that's gone wrong with the ISO choices on this. Like Storm as a fortifier, that's not really that good. We want her as a Raider for crit damage. You could do a Skirmisher for lower storms so that she has the higher focus, but really that's not necessary once you get her built up, and the Raider is better for the crit damage on her big AoE attacks. You can make, like I said, you could do Skirmishers and Strikers for those quadruple taps, but really nothing to be done here. It's kind of just a filler defense. It's a bit of wasted ISOs and stuff. It's too far gone to really do anything at this point. So I'm going to give it a C+. It's not terrible, but it's just a lost cause. All right. Team number 6. Now, this happens to be the greatest team in all of Marvel Strike Force. It will remain to be the greatest team in all of Marvel Strike Force. Obviously, the two most important characters are Ant-Man and Wasp. They should immediately be taken to G18, level 105, as soon as possible. It doesn't matter what ISOs you put on any of these characters. They simply beat everything. Like APOC, you could have a team of 5 APOCs, and this is gonna beat it. It's really amazing. No, actually, what we want Stature as a fortifier on the outside. That's fine. We want Ghost next to Stature. We're going to make Ghost a Striker for certain callouts. Then you're going to go YJ in the middle. Wasp as a Raider is great. Yellow Jacket needs to be a Skirmisher, as does Ant-Man. He's already a Skirmisher here. But Ant-Man and Yellow Jacket get called for assists by Ghost. That's why you have them both as skirmishers and her as a striker for turn meter rewind off of her basic and stuff like that. This team is actually garbage, guys. It's not good at all. Just so happens she had this team on here when we were in costume. It is a filler team. It's not going to do anything, so she shouldn't bother wasting her ions replacing or changing these ISOs. Just do a placement change on it is probably the best you're going to get. Ghost might warrant some use somewhere, but boy, at this point, I hope not, because she's so old. I wouldn't waste anything on this team. So I'm just gonna give this team a B-. Just a couple of ISOs were wrong on it in the placement, but it's just filler junk. It's not going anywhere. So not a lot wasted, but it's no good. All right, team number 7 is the Marauders. We're gonna get Emma out of here, and we're going to replace her with Strife, and then we're not going to touch this team because it's junk. It's too old, too far gone. By the time Mrs.Salty gets around to building this team up, she's going to have built up every other team in Marvel Strike Force. So it doesn't really matter what you do with it. However, if you want the proper ISOs on this, Raider is correct for Sabretooth. We're going to go Skirmisher on Mystique. Then in your placement order, it should probably be Madeline Pryor as a striker, then Sinister as a healer, and then you would put Strife on the corner as a healer would probably be the best one. Maybe you could go Skirmisher on him. Doesn't really matter. The linchpin of the team is Strife. If they can't get through Strife, this team is able to get going and do some stuff. But they're going to get through Strife no matter what. They're going to get through the rest of this team no matter what, and it doesn't really matter what you do to it. So let's get Emma off of this team because she's super valuable on offense. And you're going to change Emma's ISOs to either healer or skirmisher. I like healer for the utility of placing a vulnerable on some of the teams that you're going to use her on offense for. Using a good offensive plug-and-play character like Emma on this team is kind of a big fail for me. I'm going to go for a D+ on this team. It's pretty trash. I don't like the ISOs. Don't like the placement. I don't like who you're using. I don't like the team at all. We're going to move on to team number 8, which is the Web Warriors. Another amazing team. Let's put Stryker on Miles instead of Parker. Placement's not going to matter too much on this team, and the ISOs don't matter all that much on this team. You could run them all as healers if you want. This is a junk filler defense. It's a team that some of us had to build, and we have it left over. It's not useful on offense. We just throw it in here because it's somewhat of a bigger number. Not a big deal. So let's get the ISO swap on that one. I don't know if it's worth changing at this point with the blue ISOs. I don't think you're going to get the value out of it, Mrs.Salty, but for those of you who are still working on this team or curious, I think Miles should be the striker and everybody else Raider. I am running healer on Scarlet Spider, and I love it. So for me, this is a B. It's just filler. Moving on to team number 9, the H for H. All right, so we had a big, long talk about Shang-Chi. And Raw, how big is your Shang-Chi? Is he like monstrous in comparison to the rest of your H for H?
Yes. My H for H is probably not even as big as hers, and my Shang-Chi is basically maxed.
Okay.
Or shy of max.
So there's value to be had in Shang-Chi, and he's a really good character. However, we think that he's big enough for what Mrs.Salty is doing, and by the time she needs him to be bigger for that kind of content, there are going to be better characters available for her to invest in. So probably full stop on this team. If she wants to improve this defense, she could replace Iron Fist with either Captain America or Red Guardian. The healer ISO on Iron Fist is totally useless. All of the counters that go into this team use heal block, and you get no value out of it, so make him a Raider or a Skirmisher if you're building this team. But she shouldn't bother changing the ISO. She should just replace him if she wants to actually make this team stop. You can't really use this team on offense. You could maybe use parts and pieces of it for offense, but the team itself is a defensive team. It's where it excels, so that's where you should put it. I do like the placement of Luke Cage not being in the corner like that. That's good. The rest of the ISOs are solid. So for me, this is one of her better defenses. It's an A-. I'd like to see her use somebody else in place, and we'll see what Shang-Chi gets replaced by in the future. And team number 10 is YA. This team is as big as it should be. We talked about it being a really good team. However, once again, by the time she gets to the point where she needs to invest in this team, it's no longer going to be relevant. So this is where it stops. I'd like to see it bigger, but it's not worth it. It's just not worth the investment. So we want all strikers except for Skirmisher on Miss Marvel. So the ISOs here are great. We have healer on Squirrel Girl. That's fine. You can run her as a striker as well if you want. I would like to see a placement swap with Squirrel Girl not being in the corner. That way, if they chain off of something, it could go either direction because you want to get the ability block on Squirrel Girl for certain counters. But other than that, this is fine. It's another really good defense. I'm going to go ahead and give this one an A-. Just that placement tweak is about all we can do for it. So, we moved a lot of things from defense to offense so that Mrs.Salty can do her attacks in war and come closer to her alliance getting the full clear, which is going to benefit them more. Don't be one of those people who is unable to get effective attacks in on war. If you're not able to get 12, at least 10 good attacks in, then you need to pull stuff off of defense. Don't worry about it. Just have your alliance sit you on the flight deck or something. Let them roll through you. You're just not going to be the person that gets the stop. You want to be the person that gets the kills off of the other team. All right, so just want to thank Way Too Raw for you for joining me in costume today on stream and in the video. Thank you, Mrs.Salty, for giving us your defense to look over. If you have a defense, either War or Crucible, that you want us to review, we won't always be in costume, and it might not be the dual couple stream here either, but you can send those to me, links in the description below. While you're down there, like and subscribe, all that jazz. And remember, guys, don't just have a good game, be good to yourselves and others too, and I'll see you next time. Bye.